To prepare this nourishing dish at home, you'll need a variety of very common ingredients. The meal can be cooked using either beef or lamb. We're using ground minced beef. The other core ingredient is bulgur or cracked wheat. You'll also need about 1/4 cup of pine nuts, or, if you prefer, walnuts are a good alternative. In addition to the core ingredients, you should also have 1 medium onion and about 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. The dish also calls for a selection of spices to give its distinctive flavour. The first important thing to do is to allow the crushed wheat to soak. Pour around 2½ cups of dark fine bulgur into a mixing bowl and cover with water. Put to one side for about 15 minutes. Heat about 1/3 cup of vegetable oil in a saucepan to a moderate temperature. Meanwhile, remove the outer layers of a medium-sized onion and finely chop before adding straight to the hot oil. Regularly stir until the onion begins to pale in colour. Next, pour about 1/4 cup of pine nuts in with the onion and stir. Now we can add the meat. Simply toss the meat in with the other ingredients and mix well until the beef has begun to brown. Season well with salt and pepper. You will need about 1/2 teaspoon of each. Then stir well until all the meat has browned. Before we begin with the stuffing, quickly drain off all the water from the cracked wheat. Take a large brown onion, remove its skin, and then dice into large chunks. Place these into a food processor and blend well. Tip the onion in with the washed bulgur, then add about 250 grams of coarse ground beef to the bowl. Now, to add a little seasoning and spice to the stuffing. First, scoop 1/2 teaspoon each of cinnamon powder and allspice before grinding about 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper over the meat.
Now everything ready in the bowl. All we have to do now, mix it with the hand, make sure everything mixed together. If the kibbe a bit dry, all we have to add a little bit of cold water to make sure it's mixed together. And we take a little bit at a time, put in the food processor for 1 minute, and we continue doing the processing, and the kibbe will be ready to finish it off in the baking dish.
Once you've ground the kibbe together in the blender, put it to one side. Fetch a low circular baking tray and line it with some olive oil. Then pour some water into a bowl. Grab a handful of kibbe stuffing and place it into the tray. Press it down with your fingers. A little water will stop the stuffing from sticking to them. Repeat this until you have completely covered the base of the tray, but be sure not to use more than half your stuffing. Now to add the filling from the saucepan we prepared earlier. Scoop the meat filling over the base layer of stuffing and ensure the layer covers the whole tray. Once this is done, you can place another layer of stuffing on top. Making little patties in your hand will help make this process much easier. Finally, wet your fingers in your water and firmly press down the top layer of the kibbe. To give your kibbe an authentic look, use a knife to score a diamond pattern through the layers of your dish. A liberal dash of olive oil will help prevent the kibbe from drying out in the oven, which should be preheated to 180 degrees. Bake for 20 to 30 minutes until the top is firm. Kibbe can be eaten in numerous ways as a snack or as a main meal. Hot or cold, this traditional meat dish is favoured throughout the Middle East. Next on Cultural Flavours, we discover how easy it is to bake the taste of Lebanon. Soufouf is a Lebanese cake-like dessert that is not too sweet and can be served with coffee, tea or milk. Those with large appetites will enjoy a serving of rice pudding on the side.
When I grew up, all I can remember the coffee after the dinner or any time of the day. When they put the coffee, has to be some sweet come with the coffee. And sometimes they put baklava, or they can make semolina made with the turmeric. And we do use the turmeric because I believe turmeric is very good for our health. We don't use it on our main dishes like different countries. We do use it for sweet, and thus we make the turmeric cake, and we call it soufouf. And it's very light cake, and most people, they like to offer it because it's easy to be made from home. You don't have to go to the shop. And that's all. When you go have coffee in Lebanon, it's always some dessert with it. Namura, semolina cake with yogurt, or soufouf.
There are two parts to this recipe. The first set of ingredients you will need in order to prepare your cake. The main ingredients are 2 cups of self-raising flour, 2 cups of fine semolina, and 2 1/4 cups of sugar. Sesame seeds are used as a topping. Tahini will be used to grease the baking tray. The last cake ingredients are milk and water. In order to make a Lebanese-style rice pudding, you'll need 1/2 cup of a short-grained rice, 6 tablespoons of sugar and cinnamon. You will need about 4 cups of milk, along with some rose water and orange blossom water. First, pour 2 cups of self-raising flour into a large mixing bowl. Then add the same amount of fine semolina powder. The next important ingredient is sugar, and this cake calls for about 2 1/4 cups. Don't forget to add a little baking powder. About 3 teaspoons will do. This will help the cake to rise. Next, add about 1 cup of vegetable oil. An unusual ingredient in this cake is turmeric, and we'll use about 2 tablespoons. This spice will give the cake its amazing color. Finally, pour 2 cups of milk over all the ingredients and, using a whisk, mix well. Keep stirring until all your mixture reaches this consistency. Now we need to grease a large rectangular baking tray. To give this cake an authentic Lebanese flavor, we're using a few tablespoons of tahini. Ensure that the base of the tray is completely covered and then drain away any excess. Pour the contents of the mixing bowl into the tray. Grab some sesame seeds and then liberally sprinkle them over the top of the cake mixture. Pop the cake into a preheated oven at 175 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. Now we can begin to prepare our rice pudding. Pour 1/2 cup of short grain rice into a large saucepan. Cover with water and give the rice a quick wash before draining off. Put the saucepan back on high heat and add about 1 1/2 cups of water. Cover the saucepan and allow to cook for roughly 20 minutes. It's now time to add some milk. About 4 cups will do. Add about 6 tablespoons of sugar and give the pudding a stir while it dissolves. Once this is done, you can use a hand blender to give the rice pudding a rich and smooth consistency. Give it another quick stir and then reduce the heat. Finally, add a drop of rose water and a splash of orange blossom water to give your rice pudding a truly authentic fragrance and flavor. Serve this cake with freshly brewed Lebanese-style coffee. To finish your rice pudding, sprinkle with a dusting of cinnamon powder. This dessert will be loved by young and old and would be a fitting end to any Lebanese banquet. The food of Lebanon is appreciated all over the world. Classics like tabbouleh have become standard dishes in other countries and are now incorporated into the local cuisine. With so many flavours in the world waiting to be discovered, isn't it time you treated your friends and family to a little Lebanese hospitality? Cultural Flavours continues to explore the world through the diversity of food. From Sudan to Japan, Thailand to Nepal, let Cultural Flavours take you on a gastronomic journey so you can experience the tastes of the globe at home.